Heyo, folks, and welcome to the so-called Amber Alert murder trial. And I know basically nothing about this case, except that the defense will be claiming self-defense. Hold on while I put this on mute. They haven't started yet. Yeah, the defense will claim self-defense. They claim that the mother of their children were about to kidnap them. And there was a single gunshot to the head. And then the police found them miles away at an Applebee's, him and the kids. So he is charged with murder, of course. I believe he might be charged with kidnapping. I'm not so sure. But so this is the New Hampshire versus Dustin Duren. So that now you and I know equally, because I had my sights into a different trial, but in Texas. But KSAT 12 News threatened with copyright claims and more. I corresponded with the court. Hey, they can't copyright this, right? And there was some correspondence, and then the court stopped answering me. So hence that trial never came. That trial never came. That was the Melissa Perez case, where 3 cops are charged with ending her life without, they'd simply gunned her down. And it's so rare that cops are held accountable for what they do. So that was the trial I was really, really gunning for. Haha. But that never happened because, well, KSAT 12 are assholes. They are doing copyright claims in bad faith. But I don't have the time or the money to fight them. So here we are, New Hampshire versus Dustin Duren, or Duren. I don't know how he pronounces his name. We're waiting for everything to start. As you can see, the judge isn't there yet. Everybody is getting seated. I am actually choosing today to go via court TV stream. I'm not exactly sure if others are picking this up. Let's check here on Lawn and Crim if they also picked it up, just in case. Well, they don't have anything on network. Let's see if they have it on trials. Yeah, it seems like they have it. At least they have videos about it, I think. So, Christine, why did your channel get banned? Why? Did you tell them you had my permission to restream my stuff? My actual... You have it all on recording. Every time you ask, I say yes. That's so sad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. I know I got a comment a while back that somebody said, "Oh, she's streaming all of your things." And I answered that person, "She has my actual permission to do that." Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because I know you got monetized. So that's really, really sad. Let's see here. Be there in a minute, stuck behind ads. Okay. Yeah. YouTube has these things. When I started, they show one. I don't know what kind of ads they show before you actually come in here. But good to have you here, Walter. Good to have you here. Jury Tamps. Okay. Hey, Teresa. Good morning. First Best GD. Hey, Christine, of course. Sorry that you might have to start over somewhere else. That's real sad. Okay, the lawyers are lining up. Who is the judge in the Dustin Duren case? Let's ask Croc instead. Judge is Jonathan Frizzell. Let's check who he is. There's no Honorable Judge Jonathan Frizzell, New Hampshire Superior Court in Coos County. And that's about what I have for you. It's very cool. Let's see. Here you have something about this particular judge. Let me just check. Yeah, they are still assembling in the courtroom. So let's see here. Who is... Dun, dun, dun. Where did it go? There. The Honorable Jonathan S. Fritzell is an Associate Justice on the New Hampshire Superior Court, appointed to the bench by Governor Chris Sununu on March 27th, 2024. So a year and a half on the bench, filling a vacancy created by the retirement of the Honorable Peter Bornstein. Over the course of his judicial career, Frizzell has held assignment in Coos County and Merrimack County. He has also been a member of the New Hampshire Supreme Court Committee on Civil Access to Justice. Prior to his appointment, Frizzell was a partner at Waystack Frizzell, a law firm he joined in 1996. The firm represents clients in personal injury, wrongful death, estate planning, and criminal defense matters. During his tenure there, he supplemented his practice with service as the Colebrook Town Moderator. Then he yeah, so he is ultimately a defense attorney. Okay. It's very cool in Texas this morning. Yay! Yeah. Depends on what you interpret as cool, Gigi. I mean, here in Scandinavia, or where I am, it was 11 degrees Celsius midday. Let's see what that is. That is 52 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's getting a bit cool over here. Oh, shh. Pressed the wrong. Sorry, folks. Boomer. I'm going to put myself in the corner. First night the AC didn't run. Okay. 58 in Arizona. Okay, that's for Arizona. That's cool. Okay, here comes the defendant. So it seems like we are getting ready to start. Again, as per usual, do all the YouTube things, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and all of that things. All of those things. We're going to do that so I can put in show comments on screen. Hold on. What's going on? A little early for a stream, Nick. Well, this is a self-defense trial. The defendant, Dustin Duren, claims self-defense. Apparently, his claim is that his girlfriend/wife tried to kidnap their children. So he shot her once in the head, and then the cops found them a few miles away at an Applebee's. And it's a replacement trial because I wanted to cover the Texas trial where 3 cops were charged. But KSAT 12 decided, no, we are going to copyright strike or copyright claim everyone who tries to also cover that trial. So this is the replacement trial. I don't know anything about this trial other than what I just said. So I'm going in completely sound. All right, hopefully Core TV gets the microphone working.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. Please be seated.
Let me know if you need more sound.
Okay, just for the record, this is State versus Dustin Duren. This is docket number 214-2024 CR 28. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please stand for your oath. Mr. Duren, if you could remain standing and face the jury, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please raise your right hand and keep them raised during the oath. At the conclusion, you will each say, "I do." Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will carefully consider the evidence in the law presented to you in this case, and that you will deliver a fair and true verdict as to the charge or charges against the defendant, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. The jury may be seated. I'll read the charges now. Again, this is docket number 214-2024 CR 28. This is charge ID 2217221C. The state alleges that Dustin Mark Duren of or formerly of Berlin in the state of New Hampshire on February 29, 2024 at Berlin in the county of Coas aforesaid with force and arms did commit the crime of second-degree murder, in that Dustin Mark Duren did recklessly cause the death of Caitlyn Naffziger under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to the value of human life by shooting her with a firearm, said acts being contrary to the form of the statute, in such case made and provided against the peace and dignity of the state. The next charge ID is 2217222C. The state alleges that Dustin Mark Duren of or formerly of Berlin in the state of New Hampshire on February 29th of 2024 at Berlin in the county of Coas aforesaid with force and arms did commit the crime of reckless conduct with a deadly weapon, in that Dustin Mark Duren did recklessly engage in conduct which placed another ED in danger of serious bodily injury, to wit, by shooting Caitlyn Naffziger with a firearm while holding ED, said acts being contrary to the form of the statute, such case made and provided against the peace and dignity of the state. The next charge ID is charge ID number 2217223C. The state alleges that Dustin Mark Duren on or about February 29th of 2024 did commit the offense of endangering the welfare of a child and the laws of New Hampshire, for which the defendant should be held to answer, and that the defendant did knowingly endanger the welfare of a child, age 4, by purposely violating a duty of care, protection, or support he owes to such child, to wit, by shooting Caitlyn Naffziger in the presence of this child and while said child was being held by Dustin Mark Duren against the peace and dignity of the state. Next charge ID is 2237508C. The state alleges that Dustin Mark Duren of or formerly of Berlin in the state of New Hampshire on February 29th of 2024 at Berlin in the county of Coas aforesaid with force and arms to commit the crime of second-degree murder, in that Dustin Mark Duren did knowingly cause the death of Caitlyn Naffziger by shooting her with a firearm, said acts being contrary to the form of the statute, such case made and provided against the peace and dignity of the state. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant has been arraigned on the charges and has pleaded not guilty, and of this he puts himself upon his country for trial, which country you are. The Attorney General for the state has joined the issue, and you are to say by your verdict if the defendant is guilty of the crimes whereof he stands charged or not guilty. Hearken to the evidence. Mr. Duren, you may be seated.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Covalento. Good morning again, members of the jury. Thank you for your punctuality. Thank you for your service.
Okay, the judge's microphone is a bit better.
Opening statements by counsel. Before that, I'm going to give you some general instructions as to the law that applies to this case, which will give you some guidance as you consider the evidence in this case. At the end of the case, after you have heard the evidence and closing arguments, I will give you further instructions, and then you will retire to the jury deliberation room to decide your verdict. You will receive a written copy of these instructions when you are ready to deliberate. In order to reach a fair and just verdict, you must understand and follow the law as I explain it to you. For example, you have to understand the definitions of the crimes with which the defendant is charged. You have to understand how convinced one way or the other you should be before you reach your verdict, and you have to understand what to consider in deciding whether to believe a particular witness. These instructions, as I said, will explain the law as to these and other matters so that you can reach a fair and just verdict. It is up to you to decide the facts of this case. You and you alone are the judges of the facts. You must decide the facts solely from the evidence in this trial. You apply the facts as you find them to be to the law as I give it to you in these instructions, and in this way, you reach your verdict. You should decide the facts in this case without prejudice, without fear, and without sympathy. You are to decide the facts based only on the evidence, and the evidence in this case consists of the testimony under oath of the witnesses and any exhibits which are admitted into evidence. Those exhibits will go with you into the jury deliberation room. There are certain other matters that you may not consider as evidence. The fact that the defendant has been arrested and charged with a crime is not evidence of his guilt. In this case, the defendant was charged by means of a document called an indictment. An indictment is simply a way of giving the defendant notice of the accusations against him. This type of document is a formal way of accusing him of a crime in order to bring him to trial. In your deliberations, you must not consider the fact of the defendant's arrest, the indictment, or the defendant is being brought to stand trial as evidence of the defendant's guilt. The possible punishment the defendant may receive if you return a guilty verdict should not influence your decision. The duty of imposing sentence is solely for the judge, and you should consider the evidence presented and base your verdict only on the evidence without considering the issue of punishment. What the lawyers say to you is not evidence. In their opening statements and their closing arguments, the lawyers will discuss their view of the facts to help you understand the evidence from their point of view. But the lawyers are not witnesses in this matter, and therefore they cannot testify. Therefore, what they say to you is not evidence in the case. If the lawyers state the evidence differently from how you recall it, then you should follow your own memory of what the evidence was. Also, if the lawyers state the law differently from the law as I explain it to you in these instructions, then you must disregard what the lawyers have said about the law and follow my instructions. It is quite common during a trial for the lawyers to make objections. Lawyers are supposed to object when they believe that certain evidence may not be admissible under our rules of evidence. Please do not hold it against either party if they make these objections, and sometimes these objections require bench conferences. If I sustain an objection and I exclude any evidence, you must not guess as to what the evidence might have been. If I order that a question and answer be stricken from the record, you must not consider either the question or the answer as evidence. Likewise, if I overrule an objection and I admit certain evidence, then you must not give that evidence any special weight as a result of my ruling. I am not expressing views as to the importance of evidence when I make my rulings. I am merely applying the law, as is my duty. Throughout the trial, I must be fair and impartial, just as you are required to be. So if I say or do anything during the trial that causes you to believe that I favor one party over the other, I now instruct you that I do not favor either party in this case. The role of the judge is to run the trial in a fair and orderly manner, to decide the admissibility of evidence, and to instruct you, the jury, on the law that applies to the case. You and you alone, as I said, are the judges of the facts, and you decide the verdict. Now that I've told you what you must not consider, I'm going to tell you what you can consider as evidence. You should consider the testimony of witnesses and any exhibits that may have been introduced as evidence. In other words, you should consider only the legally admissible evidence and reasonable inferences that you can draw from the evidence. By reasonable inferences, I mean conclusions which reason and common sense lead you to draw from the facts that are proven to your satisfaction. There are two ways for a party to prove a particular fact in the case, either through direct or circumstantial evidence. Direct evidence is direct proof of a fact, such as the testimony of a witness based upon personal knowledge. That is, what the witness actually saw, heard, or otherwise directly experienced. Circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence, which tends to prove a disputed fact by proof of other facts. In other words, circumstantial evidence is proof of a chain of facts and inferences that tend to prove whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty. Let me give you a brief example to demonstrate the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. Assume that when you enter the courthouse, it is cloudy outside. While you are in the court, you see someone come into the building who is wearing rain boots, the person is soaking wet, and they're closing an umbrella. If you could actually look out the window and see for yourself that there is rain falling from the sky, that would be direct evidence that it is raining outside. In contrast, if you cannot see for yourself whether it is raining outside, you still could consider the facts and circumstances of the person you observed entering the court with the rain boots and umbrella to determine whether it is raining outside. That is an example of circumstantial evidence. You should consider both types of evidence, direct and circumstantial. There is no legal distinction between the weight of direct evidence as compared to circumstantial evidence. You are permitted to give equal weight to both, but you must decide how much weight to give any evidence, whether it be direct or circumstantial. There is, however, a rule relating to circumstantial evidence that you must keep in mind. If the state presents only circumstantial evidence to prove one or more elements of a charged offense, then in order to convict, you must find that the totality of the evidence as to those elements excludes all reasonable conclusions other than guilt. This means if it is reasonable to arrive at two conclusions, one consistent with guilt and one consistent with innocence, then you must choose the reasonable conclusion consistent with innocence. In determining whether all reasonable conclusions other than guilt have been excluded, you should not consider any item of circumstantial evidence in isolation. Rather, you should consider each item of circumstantial evidence in the context of all the other evidence. You must understand, however, that this circumstantial evidence rule does not apply to direct evidence. If there is a conflict between two or more witnesses who offer direct evidence concerning certain facts, you must decide which witness to believe. For example, suppose there are two eyewitnesses to a crime, and one testifies that the defendant committed the crime, and the other testifies that the defendant did not commit the crime. This presents a situation where there is a conflict in the direct evidence. In this situation, you, the jury, must decide which witness to believe and whether, based upon all of the evidence, the state has proven the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Similarly, if only one witness provides direct evidence concerning an offense charged, then you must decide whether to believe that particular witness, considering the factors I will outline and any other considerations you would ordinarily use in deciding whether to believe a person based upon your common sense and good judgment. Now, in reviewing the evidence, you should consider the quality of the evidence and not the quantity. It is not the number of witnesses or the quantity of the evidence that is important, but the quality of the evidence. That is, how persuasive the evidence is to you. In summary, you should consider all the evidence in the case and decide whether the state has proven the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. In deciding this case, you must decide the credibility of witnesses. That is, it is up to you to decide who to believe. If there is any conflict between the witnesses, then you must resolve the conflict. Simply because a witness has taken an oath to tell the truth does not mean that you have to accept the testimony as true. Use your common sense and judgment. Consider factors you use in deciding important issues in your everyday lives. For example, you may consider the following: the witness's appearance, attitude, and behavior on the witness stand and the way the witness testified, the witness's age, intelligence, and experience, the witness's opportunity and ability to see or hear the things about which the witness testified, the accuracy of the witness's memory, any motive of the witness not to tell the truth, any interest that a witness had in the outcome of the case, any bias of the witness or friendship or animosity the witness may have for or against any of the other people in the case, the consistency or inconsistency of the witness's testimony, whether or not what the witness said appears reasonable or unreasonable, whether what the witness said is consistent or inconsistent with the testimony of other witnesses or with statements the witness made at another time. In deciding which witnesses to believe and how much of their testimony to believe, you should consider both the direct and cross-examination of the witnesses. If you believe that part of a witness's testimony is false, you may choose to distrust other parts also, but you are not required to do so. Inconsistencies and contradictions within a witness's testimony or between witnesses do not necessarily mean that you should disbelieve the witness. It is possible for honest people to witness the same event and see or hear things differently. You should evaluate inconsistencies and contradictions and determine whether they are important or unimportant. You need not believe any witness even though the testimony is uncontradicted, nor are you required to accept testimony as true simply because some or even all of the witnesses agree with each other. You may find the testimony of one witness or of a few witnesses more persuasive than the testimony of a larger number. The principles I have outlined regarding judging the credibility of witnesses apply to all witnesses, whether they are ordinary civilians, police officers, or otherwise. In short, you should consider the testimony of each witness and give it the weight you think it deserves. You can accept all of what a witness says, you can reject all of what a witness says, or you can accept some of it and reject some of it. It is up to you. Now, I've addressed what you should not consider and what you should consider in reaching a verdict. I am now going to discuss how convinced one way or the other you must be, and this is referred to as the burden of proof. Under both.
First of all, I really like how this judge explains the beyond a reasonable doubt. Usually, it is much more vague, and then you have to hope that the defense clarifies it, which is not always not always what happens. And the prosecution, of course, have their version of events or version of beyond a reasonable doubt. So I really like how the judge explained this. I really, really like it.
Both our state and federal constitutions, all defendants in criminal cases are presumed to be innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proving guilt rests entirely on the state. The defendant does not have to prove his innocence. The defendant enters this courtroom as an innocent man, and you must consider him to be an innocent man until the state convinces you beyond a reasonable doubt that he is guilty. If, after all the evidence and arguments, you have a reasonable doubt as to whether the defendant committed any one or more elements of the offense, then you must find him not guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, a reasonable doubt is just what the words would ordinarily imply. The use of the word reasonable means simply that the doubt must be reasonable rather than unreasonable. It must be a doubt based on reason. It is not a frivolous or fanciful doubt, nor is it one that can easily be explained away. Rather, it is such a doubt based on reason as remains after consideration of all the evidence the state has offered against it. The test you must use is this. If you have a reasonable doubt as to whether the state has proven any one or more of the elements of the crime charged, you must find the defendant not guilty. However, if you find the state has proven all of the elements of the offense charged beyond a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty. During the course of the trial, you can get to know your fellow jurors, but you are not allowed to talk about the case or the evidence until you begin deliberating. It is quite natural to want to talk to your fellow jurors about the case as it unfolds, but it is really important that you not do that. If you have those conversations during the trial, it tends to cause you to form opinions about what you think the outcome ought to be before you have heard all of the evidence. Cases are presented in a certain order. The state has the burden of proof, so it will present evidence first. Because the defendant is presumed innocent, he has no obligation to present any evidence, but he has a right to do so if he wants to. So you may not hear evidence from the defense until later in the case.
Just saying, since he is claiming self-defense, he is more or less required to, not by law, but the only person who can testify to what happened, and he claims self-defense, then he is basically the only one who can say it. So I would assume that his testimony will be a part of this trial.
If the defendant chooses to exercise his absolute constitutional right not to testify or present any evidence, you cannot hold that against him or draw any negative inferences based on this. Even if the defendant chooses not to even if the defendant chooses not to present evidence, the importance of certain pieces of evidence may not become apparent until the lawyers make their closing arguments. You will have plenty of time to discuss the evidence and testimony with your fellow jurors when you retire to deliberate. After all of the evidence has been submitted and both sides have presented their closing arguments, I will give you further instructions about the law that applies to this case, including definitions of the crimes charged and other issues that might arise during the course of the trial. If at any point, if any of you cannot see or hear any witness or any of the attorneys while they have the floor, please raise your hand and we will address it. Thank you. The other thing I would like to say at this time is we typically will take a mid-morning break, we'll take a lunch break, and we'll take a mid-afternoon break. I try to time those breaks based upon the overall flow of the trial and based upon the presentation of witness testimony. I try to do my best to make sure that we don't go too long, so we'll do that as we go through the evidence. Okay? All right, ready to proceed?
All right. Excellent explanations from the judge, in my opinion. Excellent. Now, let's hear, for me, the first time from the prosecution, what they claim they can prove. This, and you know me, I am very, very pro-defense, in that I actually believe in innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So the prosecution, they have to be good, and they have to have evidence. So let's see how this works.
This is Caitlyn Naffziger. You can see her here with her daughter, Ellen. In this photo, you can see her as she was in life, holding one of her children close. She's dead now. She's dead because the defendant, Dustin Duren, the father of her children, murdered her. As Caitlyn sat on the couch, holding her 4-year-old daughter Ellen on her lap, very much like you see there, the defendant ripped Ellen from Caitlyn's arms. He stepped back, pointed his 9mm Beretta semi-automatic pistol at Caitlyn's head, and pulled the trigger. The defendant was still holding Ellen in his arms when he murdered her mother. The sound of the gunshot hurt Ellen's ears. After the defendant killed Caitlyn, he took Ellen and her 1-year-old sister, Valen. He packed their things, put them in his car, and began driving. He got all the way to Concord, where he called his parents, and he confessed. He told them that he had killed Caitlyn. He said he was going dark, and he shut off his phone, making it impossible for the authorities to track his location. The defendant's father called the Berlin police. The police went to the defendant's apartment. found Caitlyn there, dead. A few hours later, in the early morning hours of March 1st, 2024, an Amber Alert went out, including descriptions of the defendant, the girls, and the defendant's car. It was that Amber Alert that led to the defendant's arrest, after a citizen told the Keene police that she saw the defendant's car heading in the direction of an Applebee's in Keene. The police found the defendant in his car in the parking lot of Applebee's. Elowen and Valen were in the back seat. The murder weapon, that 9mm Beretta semi-automatic pistol, was in the driver's side door. After his arrest, the defendant gave an interview with the New Hampshire State Police. He told them his version of the story, his version of what happened between him and Caitlyn. He told the police that he wanted Caitlyn to leave his apartment, and when she wouldn't, he got angry. He tried to take Elowen from Caitlyn, but she refused, and he got angry. So he went to his desk, grabbed his gun, and used it to kill the mother of his children. You can see the words "very deliberate" up there on the screen. Those are his words, the defendant's words. Those are the words that he used to describe his killing of Caitlyn Naffziger when he spoke to the police. Ladies and gentlemen of this jury, this will not be a case that is difficult to understand. This will not be a whodunit. There will be no mystery. The evidence will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that Dustin Duren murdered Caitlyn Naffziger. The evidence will also show you why he did it. This is a case about anger and control. According to the defendant, he and Caitlyn had argued over the course of the day. He wanted her to leave and go back to Minnesota, where she was from. And when Caitlyn refused to do what he wanted, when he couldn't control her actions, he got angry. So he took his gun, pointed it at Caitlyn, and pulled the trigger. It was, as he said, a very deliberate act. During this trial, the state will provide you with evidence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that Dustin Duren is guilty of the murder of Caitlyn Naffziger, as well as the crimes of reckless conduct with a deadly weapon and endangerment of a child. You will be given that evidence in the form of witness testimony, photographs, videos, and physical evidence. And right now, we're going to talk about some of that evidence. Caitlyn Naffziger and Dustin Duren were both from Minnesota. Together, they had two daughters, Elowen and Valen. In February of 2024, Elowen was 4 years old and Valen was 1. Caitlyn and the defendant did not have a good relationship. It was rocky. By January of 2024, things were not in a good place. That month, the defendant moved from Minnesota to New Hampshire. He brought Elowen with him. Caitlyn and Valen remained in Minnesota. The defendant drove from Minnesota with Elowen, and on January 23rd, he moved into an apartment in Berlin. That apartment was at 1063 Main Street. You can see 1063 Main Street here. It's a multi-family home in Berlin. The defendant's apartment was on the ground floor. After the defendant and Elowen arrived in New Hampshire, the defendant and Caitlyn argued over the phone and through text messages. They argued about the children and their future. On February 27th, Caitlyn and Valen flew to Boston. They took a bus from the airport to New Hampshire, where they met family, and they spent the night with that family on the seacoast. The next day was the 28th. That day, Caitlyn and Valen got a ride and were dropped off at a restaurant in Ossipee. There, they met the defendant and Elwyn. After having lunch, the defendant drove them all in his car back to Berlin. They spent the night at 1063 Main Street, that apartment that you saw. The defendant believed that after this visit, Caitlyn was going to return home to Minnesota without either of the girls. That was what he wanted. The next day, February 29th, according to the defendant, he asked Caitlyn repeatedly when her aunt was going to come pick her up. He asked her every 15 minutes because he wanted her to leave. He didn't want her there. Caitlyn ignored him. After repeated questions from the defendant about when she was going to leave, Caitlyn told him, "I'm not leaving, I'm staying." During the course of that day, according to the defendant, Caitlyn threatened to call the police and have the children taken away from him. This continued throughout the day. That evening, after a day of asking Caitlyn when she would leave, and a day of Caitlyn not doing what he wanted her to do, the defendant got angry. He was so angry that he started packing up Caitlyn's things so that he could drive her to the seacoast, do it himself. His plan was to load Caitlyn, her things, and both girls into the car, drive Caitlyn to her family and drop her off, and then return back to Berlin with both of the girls. The defendant put the younger daughter, Valen, in her car seat. Caitlyn remained sitting on the couch, holding Elwyn in her arms. Similar to that photo. Caitlyn did not want to leave. The defendant tried to grab Elwyn from Caitlyn, but Caitlyn would not let go. She continued to hold Elwyn. She didn't want to leave. This made the defendant even angrier. Angry that Caitlyn refused to leave his apartment, and angry that she refused to let go of her daughter Elwyn, the defendant had had enough. In his mind, the line had been crossed. Those are his words. Those are the words he told the police, and he described to them why he killed Caitlyn and what was going through his head. By refusing to allow him to take her child from her arms, Caitlyn had crossed the line. This is a diagram of the defendant's apartment at 1063 Main Street. If you look at the living room, you can see that there is a couch, a coffee table in front of it, and then a desk on the other side of the room. Those black bars that you see represent the doorways in the apartment. And you can see the back door is down a hallway on the left side. Caitlyn was sitting on the couch in front of the coffee table with Elwyn on her lap. According to the defendant, after he tried and failed to take Elwyn from Caitlyn as she sat on the couch, he crossed the room and went to his desk. From his desk, he grabbed this, his Beretta 9mm semi-automatic pistol. That gun had a loaded magazine in it, but no bullet in the chamber. According to the defendant, after he grabbed the gun, he racked it on the slide back, putting a bullet in the chamber. The gun was now ready to fire. The defendant walked back across the room from his desk, around the coffee table, and stood in front of Caitlyn to her left. He grabbed Elwyn and ripped her from her mother's arms with his left arm. He was holding that pistol in his right. After grabbing Elwyn, holding her in his left arm, he stepped back and pointed his gun at Caitlyn's head. At this point, Caitlyn was sitting on the couch alone. She was unarmed. The defendant stood between Caitlyn and the exit. Elowen in one arm, gun in the other. At that time, Caitlyn did not have a car, she did not have a bus ticket, and her family was hours away. As Caitlyn sat on that couch, holding Elowen in his arm, after stepping back, the defendant pulled the trigger. He did not miss. He fired one bullet. That bullet entered Caitlyn's skull from the left side of her head. It traveled through her brain and exited the right side. The gunshot was loud. According to the defendant, Elowen immediately started grabbing her ear and complaining of the noise. The defendant went to the garage and put her in the car. This is what the defendant told the detectives later about what he was thinking at that moment after shooting Caitlyn in the head. He told them that he knew, in his words, that he was screwed. He understood what had happened, and he understood the consequences. He went back in the house. He got Valen, who was still in her car seat. He grabbed clothes for himself and for the girls. He grabbed food and water. He grabbed pillows and blankets. He put all of these things into his car. He grabbed his desktop computer. You can see it there in the defendant's trunk. After packing up those supplies with both girls in the car, the defendant started to drive. The defendant left his apartment in Berlin sometime between 5:38 p.m. and 6 p.m. on February 29th. He drove to Concord, arriving a little bit before 9 p.m. In Concord, the defendant sent a video of the girls to his mother, and then he called his parents. At 10:08 p.m. in Concord, he called them and told them what he had done. He said, "I killed Caitlyn." He said, "You should probably call the police." He also said, "I'm going to go dark. I'm turning off my phone." He said he would turn himself in, but he wanted some time with the girls before he did it. At about 10:22 p.m., the defendant did turn off his phone. According to him, he drove west into New York State. At some point, he stopped, and he and the girls slept in the car in the back seat. According to the defendant, when he woke up the next morning, he decided to turn himself in. So he started driving back to New Hampshire. As the defendant drove through Keene the morning of March 1st, he decided to have breakfast somewhere with his girls. While driving, he was seen and he was placed under arrest. The murder weapon, that 9mm Beretta semi-automatic pistol, was in the door, still loaded. That was March 1st. The evidence in this case will prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant is guilty of knowing second-degree murder and the alternative charge of reckless second-degree murder for killing Caitlyn Naffziger. It will also prove that he committed the crimes of reckless conduct with a deadly weapon.
Hold on here. This is not first degree? That's strange, because what they claim in opening statements, if I'm not completely oblivious to New Hampshire law, which I might be, but everything, you have the intent to, you have the planning, you have the anger, you have, in my opinion, all the things that is first degree. So why do you choose second degree and a lesser included? This is that confused me. Okay. I'm I'm a bit confused here as well. But let's keep listening here.
And endangerment of a child. The evidence will prove to you that the defendant was not provoked when he pulled that trigger, and that the killing of Caitlyn Naffziger was not justified. When asked by a detective if Caitlyn had threatened to harm anyone, he said no. When asked by a detective if he knew he was endangering Elowen by firing a gun so close to her, he said yes. The evidence will prove to you that the defendant caused Caitlyn's death merely because he was angry and nothing more. You will hear testimony during this trial from state troopers and police officers who will describe how they investigated this case and how they gathered important pieces of evidence. You will hear from the medical examiner who conducted an autopsy of Caitlyn's body. An intelligence analyst with the New Hampshire State Police will describe for you how she used cell phone location data to map the defendant's movements before he turned his phone off. You will hear testimony from an expert firearms examiner who will tell you that the gun that fired the bullet that killed Caitlyn was the defendant's. And you will hear what the defendant told the police when they interviewed him and when he confessed. His version of the story. After his arrest, the defendant spoke with the state police at length. That interview was audio and video recorded. You will be able to see it for yourselves. You will be able to see the defendant's body language, his demeanor, and his tone of voice. You will see that the defendant was calm and in control when he described killing Caitlyn Naffziger. I've already shown you a few of the things that he said during that interview. You will see those and more presented during this trial. Those statements are just some of the evidence that will prove the defendant is guilty. Caitlyn is dead. She is dead because the defendant became angry when she refused to leave his apartment. And she is dead because she would not stop holding her 4-year-old daughter. And that made the defendant mad. So he grabbed his gun, took Caitlyn's daughter away from her, and shot her in the head. After you've heard all the evidence in this case, it will be up to you, the jury, to deliberate and deliver a verdict. When that time comes, when you have had all of the evidence placed in front of you, you will know, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant is guilty. You will know that the defendant murdered Caitlyn Naffziger. Just like the defendant knew from the moment that he fired his gun, you will know that he's guilty.
Or I mean, it's a good opening statement.
Certainly.
It's a good opening statement, very fact-based. I'm just a bit weirded out with the choice of second degree and recklessness as a lesser included. I just think I saw here Dave saying second degree murder is knowingly or recklessly causing the death, and it includes heat of the moment. Yeah, but it's strange. I just feel it's just strange for me. Because in my opinion, they could quite easily have gone first degree with second degree and reckless as lesser included. At least by what he said in opening statement. So that leads me to think, okay, so why not? What are we missing here? Maybe the defense will tell us, because now it is time for the defense opening statement. Jesus. All right, not quite yet. Defense opening statements. They are apparently having a sidebar. Where's my sidebar banner? Sidebar counter. 1! 1 sidebar. 1. Yes. If you're new here, the others will explain to you that I have a sidebar counter when in the trials I cover. And now we have had our first. Let's see here, are they still? Oh, Jesus Christ. That will blow eardrums, folks. That will blow eardrums. All right, I guess we are waiting for... I'll just... It was not a long opening statement either. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, still. And there they are. There they are. Oh. No. Here we go. I hope.
This case is about broken promises, secret plans, and a father's unyielding love. It's about a Marine reacting to a threat toward his beloved daughter. A horrific tragedy, but not a criminal offense. Dustin Duren is not guilty. Dustin, a Marine veteran, responded to a threat when he shot Caitlyn one time. He saw his daughter being held hostage in front of him. He believed his daughter was in danger of being hurt, in danger of being a pawn in a custody dispute, in danger of being taken away from him, in danger of being kidnapped. The law allows for deadly force to be used against another in certain circumstances. The law says Dustin's actions were justified. He's not guilty of murder. He is not guilty of reckless conduct. He is not guilty of endangering the welfare of a child. You will hear that Caitlyn agreed with a plan to let Dustin take their daughter Elowen to Berlin, New Hampshire from Minnesota, and that she would follow later with their younger daughter Valen. You will hear that she later changed her mind, but did not tell Dustin. Instead, she flew to Boston with their 1-year-old Valen, and then planned with her aunt to take Elwyn and Valen from their father in the middle of the night while he was sleeping. To carry out the secret plan, Caitlyn and Valen went to Berlin, stayed the night at Dustin's, and then ignored Dustin's requests for her to leave. Dustin decided he would need to bring Caitlyn back to the seacoast where her aunt lived. And when he tried to get the kids ready to leave, Caitlyn told Dustin no, she was not leaving. She demanded Dustin pay her more money. She threatened Dustin she was going to call the police and lie to them, accusing him of kidnapping Elwyn. She told Dustin she was taking the kids back to Minnesota and he would never see them again. While making these threats, Caitlyn remained seated on the couch, holding on to Elwyn. She would not let go of Elwyn when Dustin tried to free her. She gripped Elwyn. She tugged Elwyn. She bear hugged Elwyn. Elwyn was being held hostage right in front of Dustin. Dustin did not want to hurt Elwyn. She was crying. He was worried she was being hurt. On the third attempt to free Elwyn from Caitlyn's grip, Elwyn let out a shriek. This was a startling and terrifying reaction that caused something in Dustin to tick. In his fear for Elwyn and his need to protect her, he walked a couple feet over to his desk, got his gun, chambered around, pulled Elwyn to safety, and fired one round into Caitlyn's head. Dustin Duren defended his daughter. He is not guilty. You will hear that evidence through the state's case and through the defense's case. But now I want to talk to you about Dustin. Dustin is a father and he is a Marine. These two things shape his identity and his decision-making. Dustin enlisted with the Marines when he was 18 years old. He received extensive training in firearms. He was drilled with firearms, expected to be able to assemble, load, aim, and shoot a firearm quickly, automatically, without conscious thought. Use of a firearm became automatic and instinctual to him, something that he could do quickly, accurately, and without forethought. He was trained to use a firearm to respond to threats. You will hear that Dustin was the most proficient shooter in boot camp and the squadron high shooter during annual marksmanship training. He became a certified marksmanship coach and taught hundreds of Marines how to perfect their shooting. You will also hear that Dustin had been diagnosed with service-connected PTSD and has suffered bouts of depression in the past. Before meeting Caitlyn in 2019, Dustin felt like his life was meaningless. He had no real purpose, no real reason to live. But shortly after beginning a relationship with Caitlyn, she became pregnant with their first child. Dustin's mental health began to improve. He was beginning to believe he had a purpose, having a family. He and Caitlyn lived together at his parents' home. Soon after Elwyn was born, they moved to Las Vegas and lived there together. Dustin was Elwyn's primary caretaker. He and Elwyn were bonded. At her very first Christmas, Caitlyn flew home to Minnesota, leaving Dustin and their 1-year-old Elwyn behind. You will hear that Dustin's memory of that Christmas burns bright to this day. Dustin was feeling awful about the meager Christmas he could only provide for his daughter, but her pure joy that day shifted his whole mindset. He saw her big smile and her joy, and it was a pivotal moment in his life. He thought, this is my purpose, this is my life, Elwyn. From that moment, it was like a whole world had changed. Dustin's view on everything had changed. His entire life turned to Elwyn. The two were bonded. Eventually, Caitlyn became pregnant with their second child, Valen. She was born in Las Vegas in January of 2023. By July of 2023, Dustin and Caitlyn separated, and all four returned to Minnesota. Dustin moved back in with his parents. Caitlyn moved in with a friend. For several months, they tried co-parenting. After a few months of this arrangement, Dustin and Caitlyn came to a compromise in which they would both move to New Hampshire but live separately. They decided that Dustin would travel by car to New Hampshire first, taking Elowen with him, and then Caitlyn would fly out later with 1-year-old Valen and leave her with Dustin. Caitlyn would then return to Minnesota for a few months to work and save some money, and then move to New Hampshire permanently in the early summer when she would have seasonal employment with her Aunt Brenda in Hampton. Dustin prepared for the trip to New Hampshire. He found an apartment in Berlin and showed Caitlyn photos of the apartment. Caitlyn gave Dustin a bunch of Elowen and Valen's stuff to take with him. The day Dustin left, he picked Elowen up from where Caitlyn lived, at her friend's house, and Caitlyn willingly handed over Elowen. Caitlyn did not call the police. She did not report a kidnapping. She agreed to this plan. On their trip east, Dustin called and texted Caitlyn several times with updates. He sent pictures of Elowen. After Dustin got to New Hampshire, he and Caitlyn had several arguments over the phone about money. Caitlyn wanted to claim both girls on their taxes and wanted Dustin to send her money. Caitlyn threatened to call the police and falsely claim that Dustin had kidnapped Elowen and had taken her to New Hampshire without Caitlyn's permission. Dustin was worried that Caitlyn wouldn't bring Valen and that the girls would be separated. You will hear that when Caitlyn made this threat a few weeks before this incident, Dustin was alarmed. He called Caitlyn's mother. He called Caitlyn's father. He called the Berlin Police Department. He offered to let Caitlyn claim both girls on their taxes, paid for her plane ticket to New Hampshire, and sent her some money. 2 weeks later, Caitlyn and Valen did fly to Boston, as planned, on the 27th of February. Dustin knew when they would arrive in Boston, but no other details, because Caitlyn did not share those. He did not know how Caitlyn and Valen were getting to Berlin or when. He did not know if Caitlyn planned on staying in Berlin or where she would stay. He assumed she wanted to stay a couple days in Berlin to visit with Elowen and offered for her to stay with him and the girls, but Caitlyn declined this invitation. Caitlyn had other plans, secret plans she did not share with Dustin. You will hear about the plan that Caitlyn created with her Aunt Brenda. Brenda will tell you that she lives in Hampton. She spoke to Caitlyn about her visit to New Hampshire. She will tell you that Caitlyn and Valen flew into Boston and shuttled to Seabrook, where Brenda and her friend picked them up. Brenda will tell you that Caitlyn and Valen spent the night in Hampton, and while there, Brenda and Caitlyn came up with a plan to take the kids from Dustin.
Objection. Reapproach. Yep.
All right. Prosecution did not like that one. I would assume they have had some kind of motion in limine. But here we go. Sidebar counter. 2. Yeah, I haven't followed this case at all, so all of this is completely new to me. But usually, nobody objects during opening statements or closing statements. But this was apparently severe enough for the state to object, which leads me to believe this is something they have debated earlier in pre-trial motions and stuff. And this information that the mother of the children conspired with somebody else to take the kids away. That is Well, I hope the defense can show it, if they are allowed to. Yeah, I see this. Hi, Phyllis. Good to have you here. Can't believe Dustin found a lawyer to rep him. You will always find, if you have the money, you will always find an attorney to represent you. That is not unusual. And yeah, I mean, if the facts of the case is what the prosecution says, and that is what the evidence show, I have no problems with saying, yeah, beyond reasonable doubt, send him away. For me, I have no stake in this game. I don't know anything about this other than what is presented in court. There might be a lot of information out there that will never be in this court. And they are back from the sidebar. Let's see what the decision was. Oh, it's a public defender.
While
Then she's
Caitlyn
appointed.
was visiting with her Aunt Brenda the night before she met Dustin, Brenda and Caitlyn came up with a plan to take
Oh.
the kids from Dustin.
Oh, so the prosecution lost that objection. So she is allowed to bring this up. Well, Phyllis, if it's a public defender, then she's appointed. And as every public defender, she is obligated to zealously advocate for her client. And that's the way it has to be, because the alternative is the time when we find a person who we believe are innocent, and many others do. Then all of a sudden, yeah, but then we have to apply the same standards on everyone, even the worst of them. Because if we don't, then who's to say what will be the end result? Now, I understand it. If he's an absolute asswipe, and you really, how did he get this? Well, because it's in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, and all the things.
Brenda will tell you that she agreed to bring Caitlyn and Valen to meet up with Dustin and Elowen, drop them off, and wait a day or two for Caitlyn to call her for a ride back with both of the girls. Caitlyn would sneak the two kids out while Dustin was sleeping, and Brenda would pick them up and take Caitlyn and her kids to the airport to fly back to Minnesota. Caitlyn already had a return ticket to Minnesota, and Brenda was going to buy a ticket for Elowen. And Valen was young enough that she could sit on her mom's lap. You will hear that when Caitlyn texted Dustin that Brenda was driving her up, Dustin suggested they meet up at a spot halfway between Hampton and Berlin. And he found a restaurant in Ossipee. Dustin believed that Caitlyn and Brenda would have a meal with him and the girls, and then Caitlyn and Brenda would return to Hampton, while Dustin and the girls would head north to Berlin. The next day, Dustin and Elowen drove to Ossipee and got to the restaurant first, where they waited inside the restaurant, waiting for Caitlyn and Valen. When Caitlyn arrived, she called Dustin, asking him to come outside and help with Valen's things. Dustin and Elowen went outside to meet Caitlyn and Valen. Brenda was already gone. They put Valen's stuff in the car, and the four of them, Elowen, Valen, Dustin, and Caitlyn, went into the restaurant to eat. Dustin and Caitlyn did not have any real conversation. Dustin visited with Valen, Caitlyn with Elowen. Caitlyn started asking Elowen if she could come see Elowen's new house. Dustin was confused, since Caitlyn had said she did not want to stay with them. Caitlyn did not speak directly with Dustin, instead saying things to Elowen. for Dustin to overhear. Dustin agreed that Caitlyn could spend a night. And so after dinner, all four of them got into Dustin's car, drove back to Berlin. Caitlyn sat in the back seat with the girls. That night, Dustin slept in his bed with Valen, and Caitlyn and Elowen slept on an air mattress between the bedroom and the living room. The next day, they all went to the Berlin Library for children's story time and arts and crafts. They came home and had lunch. Caitlyn spent the afternoon playing with the girls and not speaking to Dustin. Dustin tried to ask Caitlyn what her plan was when she was leaving, but Caitlyn would not answer him. Dustin continued to ask, and Caitlyn continued to ignore her all afternoon. Caitlyn played with Elowen and Valen in Elowen's bedroom, and every so often, Dustin would go to the doorway of the room and ask Caitlyn when and how she was leaving. Caitlyn did not respond. At one point, she picked up her phone and started using it. Dustin didn't know if Caitlyn was messaging someone. Her silence was telling. Dustin was suspicious. Caitlyn's behavior concerned him. Something was off. Eventually, once it started to get dark, Dustin told Caitlyn that since she wasn't responding, he was going to drive her all the way back to Hampton. And he told Caitlyn it was time to leave. Dustin was stressed because it was a long drive, and by the time he dropped Caitlyn off in Hampton and then drove all the way back to Berlin with the girls would have been up all night. Caitlyn sat down on the couch. Dustin put Valen in a car seat and sat on the hallway floor. He went back into the living room and saw Caitlyn go over and pick up Elowen, return to the couch, and set Elowen on her lap. Elowen straddled Caitlyn's knee. Dustin told Caitlyn, "Come on, we're leaving," and tried to take Elowen to get her ready to go. Caitlyn tugged Elowen tightly and pulled her back, wrapping her arms around Dustin's daughter in a bear hug. Dustin let go and asked Caitlyn to let go of Elowen, and Caitlyn said no. Dustin kept asking Caitlyn to let go of Elowen and get ready to leave. Caitlyn started demanding Dustin pay child support, give her $2,000 per month. Caitlyn told Dustin she was going to take Elowen and Valen back to Minnesota and Dustin would never see them again. Caitlyn again threatened Dustin that she would call the cops and tell them Dustin had taken Elowen without permission. Caitlyn was still holding on to Elowen, her arms wrapped tightly around Elowen, restraining her.
I'm just wondering here, the thing with the alleged plan between the aunt and Caitlyn, Dustin didn't know that. He had no idea about that. So how can we count that in? I have a hard time seeing how that is relevant for their self-defense because he would have no knowledge. And again, what is described here, what happened in that living room, that's Dustin's words. And I hope that we get to see this first interview with the police officers, because if he said nothing about any of this, that will be hard to prove, or hard to show at least. But we'll have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. Hi, Jen. Dustin and Caitlyn, divorced or separated? Separated, as I understand it. They were never married.
Caitlyn told Dustin again that he would never see his kids. Dustin felt like Caitlyn was holding Elowen hostage. He was seeing his daughter held hostage in front of his eyes. He kept begging Caitlyn to let go of Elowen and to just get ready to leave. Caitlyn refused and kept saying she was taking the kids and he would never see them again. At this point, Valen was crying. Ellen was upset and crying. The situation was overwhelming. Dustin tried again to free Ellen, but Caitlyn yanked her away again. Dustin didn't want to force anything, so he just let Ellen go. He tried again to persuade Caitlyn to let go of Ellen, and she refused. She continued to threaten Dustin. Dustin didn't know who Caitlyn had been messaging on her phone, whether there was someone outside waiting. He was suspicious. He was concerned. He was fearful.
That, if I were the prosecution, I would say this shows paranoia. But this is the defense opening statement.
Dustin could see his gun on the desk in the living room in close proximity to Caitlyn. Dustin knew that Caitlyn knew how to use the gun. He himself taught her how to handle and shoot a gun. He couldn't take his eyes off Caitlyn and Ellen while Caitlyn was holding Ellen hostage right next to a firearm. Dustin tried one more.
I thought the firearm were several steps away. She's in the couch, hugging a child, or hoarding, or whatever you want to say. How is he afraid that she will gun it for the gun? This doesn't make sense.
Time to take Ellen. He tried to hold one of Caitlyn's wrists while wrapping his arm behind Ellen so that he could free Ellen from Caitlyn's bear hug. Caitlyn did not let go and instead got more aggressive. She braced her foot against the living room table and pulled back hard. Ellen screamed, a piercing cry like she was in pain. Immediately, everything felt extremely dire to Dustin, like Ellen was in immediate danger. Hearing Ellen scream was like a tick. The only thing he was thinking was that he had to save Ellen. In an autonomous motion, like he had been trained by the military, he grabbed his gun. He had no thoughts in his head other than he needed to save Ellen. He acted instinctually, automatically, and reflexively.
To my understanding, Dustin is not a tiny guy. But Caitlyn was not a big woman. If he wanted to, he could have just punched her in the face. Or called the cops. Would it have been a hassle? Yeah. Would they have taken Caitlyn's word for it? Yeah. But where is the need for the gun in this situation? I don't see the need for the gun here.
In less than 3 seconds, he grabbed the gun, pulled Ellen out of the way, and eliminated the threat, shooting Caitlyn in the head. Ellen was safe in Dustin's arms. He is a Marine. He acts like a Marine. He did what a Marine is trained to do. Dustin saved Ellen.
A Marine can act as a Marine do in a military situation. This is a civilian situation. Could it be PTSD? Yeah. But this sounds more like... Let's finish listening to this and I will give you my opinion.
Dustin took the girls and left the apartment in his Subaru. He needed to make sure the girls were okay and to get out of that apartment. He didn't want Ellen to see anything. After driving south for about 2 hours, he stopped for gas in Concord. He called his mom and told her he shot Caitlyn. He asked for his dad to call the police. He also sent them a video of the girls in the car at that moment to show them the girls were safe. He said he was going to spend a few more hours with the girls before he turned himself in. And that's what he did. He spent a few more hours driving with, talking with the girls, making sure they were okay, making sure they knew he loved them, before turning around and driving back to New Hampshire. He planned to get breakfast with the girls before he turned himself in, but the police located him before he was able to do so. And you will see Dustin's arrest on video. You will see how he complied with the police commands, how he warned the police there were kids in the car, how he warned them there was a gun in the driver's side door, and he then gave a lengthy interview to the police. The state will probably show you Dustin's interview and what he told them after his arrest. This is a case about broken promises, secret plans, and a father's unyielding love. It's about a Marine reacting to a threat toward his beloved daughter, a horrific tragedy, but not a criminal offense. Dustin is not guilty. At the end of the evidence, the judge will instruct you on the law, and he may explain to you that what the law allows when defending others. He may instruct you that a person is justified in using deadly force against another when he reasonably believes that such person is committing or about to commit a kidnapping, is likely to use any unlawful force against a person present while committing or attempting to commit a burglary, or is likely to use any unlawful force in the commission of a felony against the actor within his own dwelling or home. When he shot Caitlyn, Dustin reasonably believed that Caitlyn was about to kidnap Elwyn and that Caitlyn was using unlawful force to commit a crime. She was holding Elwyn hostage in front of him, threatening that she would take his kids to Minnesota and he would never see them again. Caitlyn would rather hurt Elwyn than let her go. And when Caitlyn hurt Elwyn, Dustin acted to save her. Dustin's entire life purpose was to be a good father for Elwyn and Balin, and he did what he believed was necessary to protect Elwyn. The judge may instruct you. You cannot convict Dustin unless the state proves to you not only that Dustin killed Caitlyn, but that he did so without justification. You must find Dustin not guilty unless you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that Dustin did not act to defend his daughter and prevent a kidnapping. The state will not meet its burden. Dustin was justified under the law. He acted to protect his daughter. After hearing all the evidence, we are confident you will find him not guilty.
This does not make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me that he had to reach for the gun because he was physically a larger person than Caitlyn. And then he took the daughter from her arms. Okay. In that moment, in my opinion, the immediate threat is done. It's over. Then he chose to shoot. Now, the opening statements are the attorney's words. They are not evidence. But this is the defense, how the defense will produce in their own, or try to produce. Just by this, by the state's opening statement, and I said it, that I found it weird that they went for second degree and lesser included. When I listen to the defense opening statements, there are gaping holes in it. Because in this immediate situation, Dustin has the choice to yank the kid, call the cops, because he can claim trespassing. You are no longer allowed here. Get out. If he felt threatened, he's a much larger guy. He can claim self-defense after punching her in the face. And then with the gun, he has her on gunpoint. He can say, "Get out and call the cops." So there are multiple within this situation where he could have taken a step back. He chose not to. And I think it's a bit weird that the defense then chose to say he's a Marine and he acted as a Marine. Here's the thing. I've done my military service. And you have to separate. I can't do in civilian life what I did in the military. No. So, in my opinion, based solely on the opening statements, he's fucked. Because I believe the prosecution will point out how many times he could have taken a step back. But I at the same time, this is the defense attorney who has, in my opinion, very little to go on. She did the absolute best she could with what she has in front of her. She's zealously advocating for her client, which she is obligated to do. So, no shade on his defense attorney. Absolutely no shade. The prosecution has all of the burden of evidence, all of it. But listening to their opening statement, unless they screw this up by doing bad things with evidence and testimony, yeah, but we just have to wait and see. I'm not doing a definite thing here where I say, "Oh, to the gallows" or something like that. I need to hear the entire trial. But based on the alleged facts of the case, his defense attorney did what she could. And now let's move into the actual trial with witnesses and everything. I don't know how long.
Thank you.
I don't think it's
All right.
going to be that
Jury,
long.
As I said, we typically take a mid-morning break and a lunch break and a mid-afternoon break before we start with the first witness. I think it's appropriate right now to take a mid-morning break. I'm going to instruct you on several matters right now before we take our first break. First of all, as you heard me say before, you are not allowed to discuss any aspect of the case or any aspect of the evidence amongst yourselves until we get to the conclusion of the trial, until we finally get to deliberations. So it's extremely important that you not do that, and I instruct you not to do that. Further, I instruct you that if you do hear of anybody among your jurors, that if you overhear two jurors talking about the case, I instruct you to please tell one of the court security officers about that. That's something very important that you not do. Talk about it. So if one of you does hear two others talking about it, that needs to be informed to a bailiff as well. And as you can see, there is some members of the media here. As I said to you last time during jury selection, I'm advising you to pay no attention to any news reports whatsoever with respect to any aspect of the trial. And I also, because of modern social media, I'm further instructing you not to communicate with anyone about anything that's happening during the course of the trial. You'll hear me make these instructions to you many times over the course of the trial, but it's my duty just to do so. I have no doubt that you will follow my instructions. So again, please do not discuss the case, and we'll get started in about 10 or 15 minutes. It's 10:33, so we'll try to get started right at by 10:50. And so with that, we'll take our first break. Okay? Thank you.
All right. Lucky for us, we are a bit behind because this is a commentary channel, and we are about 15 minutes behind. So let's see where we are when they come back. Yeah. All right, they are still not back, but that cut 14 minutes out of the break, so they should start. Hello, everybody who is here. If you haven't seen me before, hi, I'm Nick. I'm not American. I've been covering American trials for the past almost 3 years now, and you might recognize me from the YSL trial or the Young Thug trial, which I covered for 2 full years. And you might also recognize Mr. Jingles. This is the actual owner of this channel, and everything I do here is because Mr. Jingle needs treats, and he needs company, and he needs cuddles, and once in a while he will try to assassinate me. Very, very gently, of course. Very, very gently, of course. So this is Mr. Jingles. So now you know all of it. Well, I do have a law degree. I work exclusively within labor and employment law. So I do have the foundations to actually know what I'm talking about. Although I don't do criminal law, but I do know the foundations. Hey, how's my shoulder doing? Doing better. Doing better. Thank you so much. Yeah, I injured my shoulder a few days ago out in the barn. I was going to move this. I have in the barn there's a junior four-wheeler, and I needed something behind it, so I did a stupid, and instead of getting something to lift it out of there, I lifted it myself, and my shoulder said crunch. So, but the swelling has gone down, and it seems like, yeah, I might have overextended something. I don't know. All right, they are sitting down. So let's see if they get to it anytime soon. And if you want to see the opening statements again, I am going to publish them as separate videos on my channel, if you want to go back and watch it. I already have the state's opening statements, or if you just go back on the stream, you can do that as well. I do publish videos because about a third of my viewers watch only the streams, and a third watch only the videos. And then you have a third that goes back and forth. So that is why I do that, so everybody can get a piece of me. And a piece of the trial, of course. Philly says, this is indeed a sad trial, sad circumstances, sad outcome. We shall see how justice works. Yeah. We will. And for me, listening to the judge in his instructions, very, very well articulated from the judge to the jury. So I do believe that based on that alone, I have no idea. I've never seen this judge before in anything I've covered before. But based solely on how he went there, I think he's going to conduct himself fairly. Dun, dun, dun. We decided 99% to strike if our wishes aren't met. What do you think about it? If you have an opinion and can say. Depends on the collective agreement you signed. Depends on the state you live in. It's going to be a very loyally answer, as in, it depends.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Council approach on scheduling?
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
Ah! Hey, we have another sidebar. Sidebar counter! Three. Yeah, for you who just joined us, I keep count on the sidebars. It's one of these little perks that happens on this channel. And I do it with my Have we ever watched a trial together that wasn't crazy? No. Even the normal trials have some things of crazy in it. I mean, you had that Atlanta trial not that long ago, which I covered, the 3 or 4 day trial, where the now convicted murderer claimed, "Oh, I had a 50,000 bounty on me because of this and that." And kid, you worked in a chicken factory. Not a person on this planet will pay 50 grand for your. It was so stupid. All right, they're returning here. Oh,
To confirm, there is a large television monitor.
okay, let's go back a bit.
Okay, and before we reconvene the jury, just a few quick comments about the layout of the courtroom for purposes of the record. I did not want to take the time to do that first thing this morning. I wanted to get started. But just to confirm, there is a large television monitor that is aimed at roughly a 45-degree angle towards the jury box, which has been provided by the state. There's also a smaller monitor which is directed towards the gallery. There's also a monitor on defense counsel table and also a monitor at the judge's bench up here. So a total of 4 monitors that have been outlaid around the courtroom. I've indicated to defense counsel that if at any point that their monitor ceases to work, to let me know immediately, and we will adjust as necessary with respect to that matter. And I will try to keep my eye out open for it, but in case anything does change, in case the layout does change during the course of the trial, please let me know, just so that I can adequately reflect for purposes of the record the layout of the courtroom. Any comments in response to my comments, counsel?
No, if you just have 1 second to iron out.
Certainly.
It's tech issue.
Okay, waiting for the jury to come back. For you who are completely new here, Fridays I run my Slightly Buzzed Friday Law Show, where we go through events in law and trials and cases that happen during the week while you pay me to get drunk. So that is the weekend entertainment, so to speak. And let me just say that my inner voice really speaks out loud during those sessions. Now, I'm not I'm not shy about it during my normal streams, but I do tend to try to keep it somewhat safe for work, at least during the daytime. And as per always, jury is laid back, but yeah. Oh! Dave sent me a PayPal in advance for 2 shots of alcohol for this coming Friday. All right. Please remind me, because it's Monday. Let me just check. So he's... Hey, look at that. Yep, you did. Yep, you did. So we have 2 spins on the wheel of regrets. Or did you want to do just shots? Because I do have...
I'll get one out of these. No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good. Ralph, I'm good.
Yeah, I do have other things on my wheel. No alcohol, no hot sauce, just alcohol, going back to the roots. All right. So Friday, we are going to start out strong. All right, Law Kong Express is here. Everybody go and subscribe to Law Kong Express.
All set? Okay.
That damn clock in the background is driving me nuts. If you wonder, oh, Nick, what do you have for your Fridays on the for alternatives? Well, I have this bourbon. I have this bourbon. I have tequila. I have vodka. I have gin. I have sunju and other things. But that's for Fridays.
All rise for the honorable jury.
And we're back.
Fourth County Superior Court is again in session. The Honorable Jonathan F. Rizal presiding.
Good morning, thank you. Please be seated.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Sergeant Eric Benjamin. Would you like me to swear to witness?
Please.
Sir, could you raise your hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Sir, could you please introduce yourself and spell your last name for the jury?
Absolutely. My name is Eric Benjamin, Ericbenjamin.
And sir, where do you work?
I work for the Berlin Police Department.
How long have you worked there?
I've worked there about 10 years now.
What is your current rank with the Berlin PD?
I'm a detective sergeant.
In addition to your regular duties as a detective sergeant, are you also a member of something called the Emergency Response Team?
I am.
Could you please tell the jury what is the Emergency Response Team?
The emergency response team is a group of officers who respond to high-risk situations which require additional training, equipment, and tactics to handle the situation appropriately.
And Detective Sergeant, would it be fair to say the emergency response team that you're part of handles incidents like the one you described in the Berlin area and surrounding areas up kind of in the northern part of the state?
Yes,
Do you have any role within the emergency response team?
I do.
What is that?
I am the team leader.
Detective Sergeant, on February 29th of 2024,
This is not me. This is from the stream. Okay. Let's see here. This is from the stream. Okay, let's check lawn and crim. Do they show it? Do they show it? Nope. Maybe on the other one. Oh, lawn and crim trials have it. So let's go back a few minutes. Share. Boom.
Which require additional training, equipment, and tactics to handle the situation appropriately.
and Detective Sergeant, would it be fair to say the emergency response team that you're part of handles incidents like the one you described?
No
in the Berlin area
subtitles,
and
sadly.
surrounding areas up kind of in the northern part of the state?
Yes,
Do you have any role within the emergency response team?
I do.
What is that?
I am the team leader.
Detective Sergeant, on February 29th, 2024, were you on duty as a police officer that day?
I was not.
Nevertheless, did you receive some information related to an activation of the emergency response team that day?
I did.
What time?
I received the first call around 11 p.m.
And is that standard that even if you're not on shift as a police officer that you get any call for emergency response team issues?
Yes,
Who was that phone call from?
that was from Sergeant Dennis Gale.
And what information did you receive?
The initial information I received was that there was a situation at a residence in Berlin in which the information known at that time was there was a male that had contacted his father stating that he had just killed his girlfriend.
Did that information include anything about children?
It did. There were two children that were allegedly with the male at the time, and their whereabouts were unknown.
As a result of receiving that information, what did you do?
Our team was activated as part of my role as the team leader. I spoke directly with our commander of the team, and we activated to the Berlin Police Department, where we set up an an immediate action team.
When you got to the Berlin PD and set up an action team, what did you do?
We responded to a separate location near the residence where we met other personnel from the team.
When you did that, were you dressed in your normal police uniform?
I was not.
What were you wearing?
Due to the nature of the call and as well as the emergency response team's roles, we were wearing body armor, helmets, rifles, the appropriate response for that type of call.
Is that standard for emergency response team operation?
It is.
Did you, so you mentioned that you went to a location near the apartment that was involved, is that right?
Correct.
How did you get there?
We assembled in the Bearcat.
Just generally, can you tell Jerry, what is a Bearcat?
The Bearcat is a piece of armored vehicle that we respond with our team in.
So what particular location were you focused on? What was it called?
The residence we were focused on was 1063 Main Street in Berlin.
And did you get the name of the male involved who you mentioned that had called his father?
I did.
What was the name you got?
Dustin Duren.
How many members did you gather for your team?
Initially, there were 4 of us and a medic.
So you mentioned you went
Oh.
to the area nearby 1063 Main Street in Berlin.
Yes.
Could you describe that area of Berlin where 1063 Main Street is?
It's right along Main Street. It's a residential area, multiple houses, couple businesses near there, as well as a community park.
This time I move to introduce states exhibits 1, 2, 3A, 3B, 3C by agreement. Yeah, you can restrict it.
The ID may be stricter than each shall be considered full exhibits.
Thank you, Sergeant. Can we see the screen over there?
Yes.
You need to get up and move this.
Okay.
So we're talking about 1063 Main Street. What do you see here?
Oh, I'm not
Yes,
just.
So this is State's Exhibit 1. Please tell us what you see there.
That's an overview of the city.
And that's the city of Berlin, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
See down in the lower right corner, you see a marking for 1063.
I do.
And is that an accurate representation of where 1063 Main Street is?
Yes.
And then you see some other markings there for the city hall and the library. Are those accurate as well?
Yes.
Are those generally in the downtown area in the center of the photo?
Yes.
And if you want to approach the screen, I believe you can do that. And then up in the left, you see a red circle with a white cane. Can you point that out to the Jared?
Yes, right here.
Yeah. What is at that location?
That's a Circle K gas station.
And is there a bus stop at the Circle K gas station?
Yes, there is.
And what sort of buses service that bus station?
That's the Concord Trailways.
Thank you. And I'll keep you up here so you show up and down. We're showing you State's Exhibit 2. What is this?
That's a closer view near 1063 Main Street.
So that's Main Street in Berlin, and then that's 1063 where the red box is coming out.
Correct.
How many lanes of travel on Main Street?
2.
And is that, you just right the park on the other side, is that what you can see at the bottom of this photo?
Yes, the Heritage Park.
That last photo? What do you see there?
That's 1063 Main Street where we responded.
So I'll do all of this while we have you up here. Is 1063 Main Street multifamily home?
It is.
That's multiple apartments within that one structure.
Yes.
Is there a garage?
Yes.
All right. Can you see any of it in this photo?
Yes, you got right over here.
And is there a driveway?
Yes.
What side of the house is the driveway on?
Go to the left side.
So go back here. You point out which side of the house the driveway is on?
Yes, right here, the left side.
Now back on Exhibit 3, is that the garage you can see down at the other end of that driveway on the left side?
Yes.
This is State's Exhibit 3B. Is this showing the driveway in that garage?
Yes, it is.
So how many bays in that garage?
3.
It's a separate structure from the house, right?
Correct.
Does the garage have an attic?
It does.
Where's the door to the garage?
All the way to the right side, you can see it over this photo.
Last one, State's Exhibit 3C. What are we looking at here?
That's the rear of 1063 Main Street. Main entrance point.
So that white door in the middle there, is that the main entrance point from the parking lot?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Detective, you can do it, Stanley.
Yeah, I wish we could watch the evidence as well, but we can listen and draw our own conclusions.
Phone call, went to Berlin PD, and then staged at a location near 1063 Main Street. Did you eventually go to 1063 Main Street?
Yes, I did.
And did you go there in that Bearcat that you described?
We did.
When you got there, where did you park?
We parked right in that rear parking space right in front of the 3-bay garage.
What did you do at that point after you arrived?
So my role as a team leader is to convey basically what's going on the ground to the commander who makes the decisions as far as what we do next. At that point, we weren't sure whether or not Mr. Duren's vehicle was still in one of those 3-bay garages. If they may be inside a residence, we didn't really know. At that point, upon arrival, we decided to clear the 3-bay garage as there was a dormer up above that also posed a risk to our officers outside on the perimeter as well. So we made the decision to clear that garage first.
Before we talk about the garage, was there snow on the ground at that point?
There was.
And could you see any tracks in the snow when you were at?
There were tracks going to the one garage bay in particular more than others.
Detective Sergeant, when you say you cleared the garage, what do you mean?
We entered into the garage to make sure that there was nobody inside.
And we were also looking for the vehicle.
Yes,
Remember what kind of vehicle you were looking for?
I believe it was a small sedan.
Did you clear the garage?
We did.
Did you find anyone or anything in there?
No,
Was the defendant's vehicle, or excuse me, was the vehicle you were looking for in there?
no, it was not.
What did you do next after clearing the garage?
Based on the circumstances, we decided to make entry into the residence.
How did you go into the residence?
We went in through that white door you see on the rear of the building.
Was that door locked?
That was not locked.
When you got in through that door, what did you encounter?
There was a set of stairs that we later found to reach the other apartments in that building, as well as a door, which we later found reached the basement, which is a common area. And then there was another door straight ahead as we entered into this door here. And that was the main entrance pointing to Mr. Duren's apartment.
Was that door into the apartment locked?
Yes, it was.
How were you able to open it?
We utilized a ram to get through that door.
So if you could paint a picture, how many officers were with you at this time when you're entering into this apartment?
We had 4 of us on the immediate action team.
Where were you relative to those other 3?
So as the team leader, usually in the back, we call the stacks, the back of the group. So that's where I was. I was number 4 in that group.
After that door was breached, did the group go into that ground floor apartment?
Yes,
What did you see when you got in?
the apartment was completely black. So it took us a moment to get through the initial entryway until we later just briefly found the light switches that we turned on while we were in there.
So the door was locked and the lights were off and you went in. What did you and your teammates do?
We began clearing. There were initial rooms to the left and right, which we cleared to make sure there was nobody inside. And then we continued going straight into what we'd later find to be like kitchen area.
And tell us what you saw when you got to the kitchen area.
So the kitchen area opened up into 2 rooms, one to the left, one to the right. And at that point, we had multiple officers begin to go left and right from that kitchen area.
What happened next?
Deputy Green was the first person in front of me to the right. I was holding the room to the left with Sergeant Gale. We were able to start to make entry into the right room off the kitchen. And at that point, Deputy Green announced that there was a female victim on the couch with an apparent gunshot wound to the head.
What room was Deputy Green in?
That would be the living room.
Well, after hearing that from him, that he found a female with a gunshot wound to the head, what did you do?
We continued clearing the rest of the apartment to make sure that Mr. Duren and the children were not in there.
Did you find anyone else in the apartment?
No,
Did you go to the living room?
I did.
Tell us what you saw.
Again, we did an initial search of the apartment. I went to the female. I checked her to make sure she was in fact deceased. And while I was there, I noted several things. Her body was very cold. The appearance of her skin indicated to me, based on training and experience, that she had been there a while. I also noted a single shell casing to the right of the couch in the living room.
You mentioned an apparent gunshot wound. Where did you see that apparent gunshot wound?
The gunshot was to the side of her head.
Where was that female sitting or positioned, I should say?
As I was facing the couch from the front, she was all the way to the right side.
So was she sitting or lying down?
She was kind of slumped over.
Where were her feet?
They were positioned in front of her.
Were any of her feet on the top of the table?
I don't believe so.
After observing, you mentioned observing a shell casing. Where did you see that?
I was directly to the right of the couch, right on the floor.
After seeing that female there and that shell casing, what did you do?
So based on the type of scene that we knew we had at that point, it was our job to maintain custody of the scene, to maintain the integrity of the investigation that we knew was forthcoming. So I made sure that there was an officer that stayed with the female victim while the rest of our team had to continue on to make sure that the other residents, if any, in the apartment were safe and secure, and that there wasn't a possibility Mr. Duren was anywhere else within that building.
What was the purpose of stationing an officer in that living room?
These type of investigations and require us to maintain the integrity, and that means that nobody touches the body, nobody moves anything from the scene, and nobody, everyone's responsible for their own actions. So we post an officer with the body to make sure that all those are accounted for, all those things happen.
Other than checking for a pulse, did you or any other officers with you touch that body?
No,
Did you or any of those officers touch that shell case?
no,
Did you and the other officers then proceed to the rest of the building to clear it?
we did.
And what did you find as you did that?
There were multiple apartments within that structure that were empty. And we did note one resident on the top floor that we evacuated from the building.
Anyone in the second floor apartment?
No, I don't believe so.
Did you check the basement for people as well?
Yes,
Did you find anyone in the basement?
no.
Once that whole building was searched, what happened next?
I made sure I was the last one out, and I taped over the entry exit of that building. Notified dispatch that I was the last one out. I made sure I posted officers at locations around the residence that would maintain the custody of that building to make sure that nobody went in or out. And we would start a scene log at that point to make sure that anyone that did arrive on scene was logging in.
Was there police tape put around the building as well?
There was.
Okay, Sergeant, you mentioned that the door into the apartment was locked. Can you tell us, is that locked with the knob or with the deadbolt?
I'm sorry, the first entry door or the door of the apartment?
Door to the apartment,
Yes, that had a deadbolt on it.
the deadbolt was locked.
Yes.
What further questions?
Morning, Sergeant.
Morning.
One question.
Oh,
Maryland Police Department's phone number 603-752-3131.
Yes.
And if you were to Google that, that's how it would pop up.
I think so.
No more questions. Thank you.
Nothing further.
Okay, the Detective Sergeant Benjamin step down.
yeah. So this was just a foundational witness. What did you do? When did you get there? What did you see? So, yeah, it's a standard witness, so to speak.
Thank you, Aaron.
May you step down? Okay, thank you.
I see the discussion in the chat about what kind of sentencing. Well, first it has to be pronounced guilty. So what I believe, the prosecution, based solely on what we heard in the opening statements, they will probably prove this without prove their case.
This kind of state would call work Excuse me, Mark Duren.
They will probably be able to prove what they claim. Probably. I say that now because there's a bunch of witnesses still to come. The sentence, I believe, is depending on how good or how bad Dustin is on the stand. But that is pure speculation at this point. We'll just have to wait and see. Who did they call? Are they calling the dad? Oh, this. Oh. This must be wrong. No?
Duren, if you could remain standing and please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth of your pains and penalties of perjury today?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Sir, could you please state your name for the record?
Mark Philip Duren,
Mr. Duren, where do you currently live?
in Pine City, Minnesota.
And for how long have you resided there?
About 4 years now.
How long have you lived in Minnesota?
Well, off and on most of my life.
What do you do for a living?
I'm retired.
And what did you do prior to retiring?
I was a deputy sheriff with Anoka County in Minnesota.
Unoka County Sheriff's Department.
Yes,
Oh. So Dustin Duren was from a police family.
Are you married?
yes.
To whom are you married?
Deborah Duren,
And how many children do you have together?
we have 2 together.
Okay, and you have one additional child?
I do.
Do you know the defendant seated to my right, or sorry, my right at trial table?
Certainly do.
Who is that?
It's my son, Dustin Duren.
In terms of your children, is Dustin your oldest child, your middle child?
Middle child.
In February of 2024, where was Mr. Duren, the defendant, living?
In Berlin, New Hampshire.
Is it fair to say that, or I'm sorry, do you know how long he'd been living in Berlin, New Hampshire?
Approximately a month.
He'd moved there, in fact, in January of 2024.
Yes,
And prior to his moving to New Hampshire to live in Berlin, New Hampshire, did he reside with you in Minnesota?
he did.
Had you, through the course of having Mr. Duren live with you and being your son, met his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, Caitlyn Naffziger?
Yes,
And this may sound like a silly question, but you have in fact met his children, is that correct?
very much. Yes.
Can you please identify the 2 children that Mr. Duren had with Ms. Naffziger?
Elwyn and Valen,
In February of 2024, how old was Alvin
4,
and how old was Valen?
1.
Is it true that at this time you are currently sharing custody of Alvin and Valen with Ms. Naffziger's family?
Yes,
Wow.
I'm going to show you what is marked for evidence for identification as State's Exhibit 4 with respect to this case. That's going to take a look at this. Do you recognize what you're looking at?
yes.
What is it?
Caitlyn and Elwyn,
Is this fairly inaccurate? Show both of them in this image?
yes.
Right at this time, the state requests the State's 4 be admitted into evidence. Objection.
The ID may be stricken and it shall be considered a full exhibit.
Now, Mr. Duren, in February of 2024, specifically on February 29th of 2024, did you make a call to the Berlin Police Department?
I did.
Can you explain to us why?
Dustin had called my wife. And she had informed me,
Based on a conversation you had with your wife, you called the Berlin Police Department.
yes,
What did you tell the Berlin Police Department?
that I'd received information that Caitlyn had been shot.
Did you tell the Berlin Police Department why Caitlyn had been shot?
Yes,
Oh, this is going to be rough. And looks at his kid. Oh, a poor man. You poor, poor man. Oh. Do you protect your son or do you tell the truth? Oh, you poor, poor man. What an absolute. Oh. And there is a sidebar. Sidebar counter 4. Yeah, I'm not going to do the laugh because this is. We are a bit behind, so let me skip ahead a bit. Also, on Law and Crime, we don't have the anti-sidebar sound. Hi, JK. What damning statement did Dad just make? No, it was the question from the state. Did you tell the police how she got shot? Or something of that effect. And the defense objected. Probably hearsay grounds. Because he was the one calling the cops, but the person receiving the call from Dustin was Dustin's mother, his wife, the witness's wife.
Okay, members of the jury, I'm going to allow Mr. Duren's answer to the state's question. I'm instructing you not to consider it for purposes of the truth of the matter with respect to what is contained in the statement, but instead, you can consider it only for the specific reason of what was said to the Berlin Police Department at that time, and you shall consider it for no other purpose. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Duren, you indicated that you called the Berlin Police Department because you had received information that your son had shot and killed Miss Naffziger. What did you tell the Berlin Police Department when you called them?
what did I tell them?
What did you tell them?
Exactly that I had received information from my wife that Dustin had shot Caitlyn.
Did that information include why?
No,
Oh,
You're indicating today that the defendant called your wife's phone, that's Deborah's cell phone.
correct.
What is Deborah's cell phone number?
763-607.
and I'm not going to tell the rest because I don't want to.
I can look at my phone if you want. I just called Deb on my phone.
Understandable, most of us do. Are you familiar with the cell phone number 763-350? And what is that correct to be?
That is my wife's phone number.
Okay, so 763-350-0954 is your wife's cellular phone number.
Correct.
What time of day did that call come to your wife?
I don't recall.
Foundation.
State.
Were you present at home at the time the call came in?
I was.
Okay, and at what time did the call occur?
I don't recall.
Was it in the daytime or the nighttime?
It was in the evening.
When your wife received a call from your son, where were you?
I was in the living room watching TV.
What were you watching?
I don't recall.
Where was your wife?
She was in the bedroom.
How long was your wife on the phone?
I would estimate 5 to 10 minutes. I wasn't present, so I don't know exactly.
At any point during this conversation where your son called and provided this information, did your wife leave the bedroom and come to the living room?
After the phone call, she came out and informed me.
Following that phone call, did you and your wife receive a video?
Not that I'm aware of.
You didn't report to the Berlin Police Department or to state police that you received a video from your son?
I believe that was after.
So after that phone call ended, did you receive a video?
Yes.
What was that video?
Dustin and the girls in the car.
Where were they? Besides in the car, could you tell where they were?
I could not.
Did it look like you said they were in a vehicle? Did they look like they were inside of a garage, in a parking lot? What was the background?
I don't recall. I just recall the inside of the car and the occupants.
Following your 911 call or your emergency call to the Berlin Police Department, did you continue communicating with police?
I did.
You made in fact several phone calls to the police department, correct?
Correct.
At least 2 that evening,
Yes, ma'am.
and other officers called you
Yes,
and you shared information with them?
I did.
Did you also share photographs of the defendant with the police?
I did.
Did you provide them with photographs of the 2 children?
Yes.
Mr. Duren, as a sheriff's deputy, were you assigned a service weapon?
Was.
Okay.
Several.
Several service weapons? When you retired from the sheriff's department, what did you do with those several service weapons?
I gifted one to my son Dustin and another to my son Nicholas.
Oh,
What kind of gun did you give to Dustin?
It was a Beretta.
Beretta 9mm?
Yes.
oh, you poor man. You gave the murder weapon to your son. Now, I assume this was
Any states exhibit 20.
a good amount of time before this.
Purposes? You recognize this?
Oh no.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
It's a Beretta handgun.
Do you know if that is your service weapon that was a Beretta handgun?
I would not know unless I looked at the serial number.
You know the serial number for that weapon?
Not right offhand, no.
But you would recognize it if you observed it. Is that fair to say?
Not without looking at my records to identify the serial number.
But you gifted a gun just like that to your son Dustin, correct?
I did.
Oof.
Court convulsion.
Yeah, I feel for this man. I really do. Marcy Cruz asked, can Dad be shot for that? I don't think so. I would assume that the gun was gifted way before this case.
Stern.
Good morning.
Mr. You testified that you were a sheriff within the county.
Oh,
Sheriff's
cross-examination.
Department
Correct.
For 19 years,
Yes, ma'am.
and have you, in your role as a sheriff, did you have to testify in court?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are aware of the importance of telling the truth, correct?
Absolutely.
And to be honest,
Yes.
and to be as complete and detailed as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were watching TV in your living room, Minnesota, on the night of February 29, 2024, you testified that Deb received a phone call.
Correct.
Did you hear her receive that phone call, or did you find out after she came in?
I found out afterwards she came out of the bedroom hysterical.
But she was hysterical, she came out to talk to you. Prior to her coming out, you had no idea she received a phone call from Dustin.
I knew she was on the phone. I did not know who she was speaking with.
So Deb comes out hysterical, and provides you information. And as a result of that, you called 911, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, so when you called 911, you actually got Minnesota dispatcher, correct?
Correct.
And what did you report to them?
That I had received information from my wife that Caitlyn had been shot.
Right, and did they transfer you to dispatch in New Hampshire?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't have to like hang up and call in somewhere, correct?
I don't believe so.
When you were transferred, you spoke to someone that from dispatch and gave them the same information, correct?
I did.
Answered all their questions,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? Provided them information like your son's name, right?
Correct.
Caitlin's name,
Yes.
the kids' names,
Yes.
what Dustin drove for a vehicle,
Yes.
his address.
Yes.
You didn't leave anything out.
No.
You were concerned for your son
Yes. And for Caitlyn.
and for Caitlin and the grandchildren.
Yes.
You didn't speak to Dustin that night though, correct?
I did not.
You were not in Berlin on the night of February 29th, correct?
No.
You didn't see what Caitlin said that night, correct?
No.
You didn't hear what Caitlin said that night,
No.
correct? You didn't see what Caitlin did that night, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Duren, you're a Marine veteran, correct?
That's correct.
And what years did you serve?
1977 to 81.
And as a Marine, are you expected to be familiar with firearms?
I am.
As a Marine, are you expected to shoot firearms with precision?
Yes.
Are all Marines expected to be able to deliver well-aimed shots to eliminate the adversary?
Yes, ma'am.
Every Marine is a rifleman, correct?
Correct.
And every Marine, regardless of their specialty, go to infantry training, correct?
That's correct.
They're trained in ground combat, correct?
That's correct.
Everyone in the Marines is expected to be combat ready, correct?
That is correct.
Well, what does combat ready mean?
That at any time they could be called into a war zone.
As a Marine, you're trained to be ready for combat and be a combat marksman, correct?
Correct.
I don't think this is a good line of defense to say, well, he was a Marine, he does what Marine are trained to. Yeah, but the Marines are only trying to act like Marines in active duty. They are. Let's see if the prosecution will bring this up anytime.
You told us that you gifted Dustin a Beretta M9, correct?
Yes,
And that was your former service weapon.
yes,
And it became yours upon retirement.
yes.
Now, are you familiar with the M9?
I am.
Okay. Was that your regular service weapon that you used?
Yes, yes,
Was that the only weapon M9 that you used as the sheriff?
it was the only Beretta. Every few years, we would be issued new firearms.
So the M9, the last firearm, the M9 that you discussed in the last firearm that you had before you retired.
Yes,
The M9 is a pistol, correct?
it is.
A semi-automatic handgun.
Yes,
And what does that mean that it's semi-automatic? Actually, Your Honor.
Basis.
Here, maybe a bridge.
Sure.
I got the question over at Rumble if I know the rank of Dustin in the Marines. And as I can find out, he was honorably discharged as a sergeant in 2011. Which also tells me that's 13 years before all of this. He had 13 years to adjust to civilian life. So I'm having a hard time seeing how this helped his case. Why use of a gun? And it seems to be from the defense, well, he's a Marine. He reacts like a Marine. Oh, we had another sidebar. Sidebar counter 5.
What does it mean to be a semi-automatic pistol?
it means that it will fire every time you pull the trigger.
And the M9 is, it has several safety features, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And actually it was developed for use by the armed forces, correct?
Yes,
And it has a fail-proof safety system, correct?
yes.
Mr. Duren, how many grandchildren do you have?
7.
7 grandchildren. And you testified earlier that Alan and Valen are Dustin's 2 children, correct?
Right.
With Caitlyn, right?
Yes,
And at the time of this incident in February of 2024, Alan was 4
yes,
and Valen was 1.
yes,
And at the time of the incident in February 2024, Dustin, Alan lived in Berlin, New Hampshire, correct?
correct.
And Valen and Caitlyn had just come out a few days prior from Minnesota, correct?
Sustained.
When, before Dustin and Ellen moved to Berlin, New Hampshire, he lived with you and your wife, correct?
That's correct.
And Ellen and Valen lived with you part-time, correct?
Correct.
The other part of the time they lived with Caitlyn,
That is correct.
and you were aware that Dustin and Caitlyn would exchange the kids for their, or
Objection, you're saying.
their pressure.
And we have another sidebar. Sidebar number 6. It seems like both sides are trying to elicit information from him that the other side don't want, which brings me to believe that his testimony was talked about pre-trial. Motions flying right and left, and there's a possibility there are some things he can't testify to because of court orders, unless opposing sides open the door. Yes, we are up to 6 sidebars. It's not even lunch yet.
Oh, Mr. Duren, when Dustin and lived with you and your wife and his children, several months, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were able to observe Dustin's relationships with each children, correct?
Yes,
And specifically with Bellowin, you observed how close they were, correct?
extremely.
Close. Dustin loved being father as far as you could see, correct?
Very much so.
And he cared deeply for Ellen. Correct?
Overruled.
So based on your observations between Dustin and Ellen, he cared deeply for Ellen, correct?
That is
And when Dustin and the girls lived with you part-time, they were there 90 and but not 40 days, correct?
that's correct.
So Dustin and the girls were there at your home at a higher ratio than the other girls, correct?
Yes.
I don't have any more questions.
Direct?
Mr. Duren, you talked a little bit as counsel about being a Marine and having Marine training with respect to how to use a gun, correct?
Yes.
Part of your training as a Marine also involves being disciplined,
Yes.
when to appropriately use a gun.
Yes.
Does it also include when not to use a gun?
Yes.
As a Marine, are you taught to mindlessly fire?
Of course not.
You're in fact taught to assess situations, correct?
Yes.
To only fire when necessary,
Yes.
to take out a threat.
Objection, Your Honor, leave it.
I can rephrase your.
Withdrawn. Sustained.
With respect to your training, Mr. Duren, are you taught as a Marine to shoot at a specific individual?
If necessary, yes.
Okay. And are you taught when and how to decide if it's necessary to shoot?
Yes.
How about an unarmed person? Is it necessary to shoot them?
Objection.
Overruled.
You may answer, Mr. Duren.
Yes.
It's necessary to shoot an unarmed person?
Yeah, Chair, I see approach.
There's been a few objections during his testimony, Dave. Seems like this as well was objected against. I believe they are currently at sidebar. Skipping ahead. All right, we are soon to be up to actual live again. And they are back from the sidebar.
Mr.
Which-
Duren, does your Marine training include information on shooting persons who are unarmed?
Yes.
As a Marine, is that something that you're trained to do?
Yes.
Are there certain circumstances under which your training tells you that that can occur?
Depends on the threat at the time.
As a Marine, you're trained in ground combat.
Correct.
What is combat?
It means taking out your enemy if necessary.
Taking out your enemy? And are you trained as a Marine to be thoughtful with respect to your use of a handgun in combat?
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, he hasn't been a Marine since when was it? 1981? That's quite a while ago.
No other questions?
Because,
Nothing further.
okay, can Mr. Duren be excused?
Time to see.
Okay,
Just,
okay, thank you, Mr. Mason.
Yeah, I feel for this guy. I mean, first this at the situation,
Yes,
and then called by the state to testify against your son. Yeah, and it seems like they are up at the bench again. And now we are at actual live.
okay, members of the jury, we'll stop and take the lunch break now. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. A few comments, a few instructions. Once again, as I've already said, please do not talk about the case or the evidence amongst yourselves, and please report to a bailiff if you do indicate someone doing that. And just a few more comments, because with length of the trial, these things may come up. Lancaster, the town of Lancaster is not a large area. It may be possible that during the lunch break, you may run into one of the attorneys. You may run into someone who is a witness in this matter. Obviously, I instruct you to not engage in any way with anyone who's an attorney or a witness in this matter whatsoever. I instruct you not to do that. if you happen to be grabbing a sandwich and you happen to run into any of the attorneys here, they will not talk to you and you should not talk to them. So please take no offense to that. That's just part of the procedure. Further, we will try to start exactly at 1 o'clock. I do want to inform the jury that from time to time, there are times that there are other matters that I have to attend to. It might be a brief meeting with the attorneys involved in this case, or it might be something like a bail hearing or something like that. We try to minimize the interference. We try to minimize your waiting time as much as possible. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. So please understand that that's what's happening. This trial is the priority for the court. We do appreciate your service and your attention. So we do try to minimize disruptions, but sometimes they do happen from time to time. So we will try to minimize that to the extent possible. And again, please review nothing relative to any media reports about this. Please go so far as to try to avoid even accidentally or inadvertently coming in contact with any of that information. And again, please don't transmit anything by your social media as to what is happening as part of the trial. So I'm sorry for all the instructions, but they are necessary under the circumstances. We'll try to reconvene again directly at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, yeah. So first half of the day is done. We heard the state opening statements, which was very fact-based. We heard the defense opening statement that was very emotional-based, with a lot of information about something only Dustin can testify to, which tells me that Dustin is going to testify in this trial, which is often the case if you bring forward a self-defense defense. So let's see if they are going to go through other things after. It doesn't look like that. Is the judge going to take care of other cases during lunch? It would be interesting to see him handle other cases during lunch, like arraignments and stuff.
That's five. And then we have B. I have it highlighted.
Oh, hot mic.
That's 6, 6, 8. You know what? They can't get it. Hold on. I still have stash.
Procedure is.
At 4 o'clock, once the courtroom is clear, the bailiffs will lock up the room.
So stay open during lunch? You're not worried about being stolen more, you say access to the
Bailiff should be.
Oh, okay.
Well, guys, do you need anything from me?
We're good. $1,000,000.
I got you. All right, it's in the car.
Good seeing you again, man.
Good seeing you. And Joel, I will see you around. If you do need anything, please.
I'll just go outside, grab lunch.
Okay. And let's see, I will see if the.
New Hampshire, yeah. Deadly force can be used if the person is committing kidnapping.
I'm
There
actually
it's in
fine
the-
if you don't, so.
Okay.
It's multiple states has that in defense of others. And in that, it is if you're reasonable to believe that a person is committing a felony, is a danger. One of the cases I am covering right now is the Aaron Spencer case, which I believe is actual defense of others, with the teeny tiny tidbit that he emptied his magazine in the guy. Well, this is only one shot, but in this case here, all we have is his word. While in the Aaron Spencer case, we have all that led up to it. All of it. When was the Amber Alert issued? I believe they took out the Amber Alert, it seems, after they found Caitlyn, but nobody actually knew where Dustin and the kids were. Then it was an Amber Alert. But Phyllis, read the self-defense laws. Let's see here. New Hampshire allows the use of deadly force in self-defense if you reasonably believe it is necessary to prevent death or serious bodily injury, including from unlawful deadly force, kidnapping, or forcible SAs. The state has a stand your ground law, meaning you generally do not have a duty to retreat before using force, but you are not justified in using deadly force if you can safely retreat. The castle doctrine specifically applies to defending your home from a burglary, allowing for the use of deadly force if you believe the intruder will use unlawful force. That's the gist of it. And since everything here happened inside his house, I'm not sure how the castle doctrine applies. Because he was armed, he had the kid, he could easily retreat into a room and call the cops. But then again, he is in his house, and she was not a resident there. Yeah, it's one of these, it depends. Because we only have his word that this is how this actually happened. That's all we have. That's all we have. And yeah, this will be interesting. Now they are having lunch until 1 p.m., which is in about an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a stream for later today. Not at 1 p.m. Eastern time, because I need to do stuff at home. What I will do is around 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m., I will go in and stream the afternoon session. Gwendolyn, she didn't live with him? No. They separated before this, agreed that they would live in wherever it was, separately in that state. And then something happened. One kid lived with him. Thank you, interesting. So, yeah, it's a complicated arrangement. As Daria says, the defense even said he didn't know who she was texting. She may not even have been texting. Well, I assume if she was, the defense will try to bring those texts up in court. But again, as they said in the opening statements, this thing about Caitlyn and her aunt conspiring to take the kids away, he didn't know that. So, yeah, this case will be interesting to follow. This case will be interesting to follow. But what we will do is we will do that later today. I'm going to set up a new stream for 4:30 p.m. so I can do stuff at home. And then we are going through the afternoon. And yeah, thank you everybody for being here over at Rumble, Twitch, YouTube. And on your way out, hit the thumbs up. I don't mind if you go somewhere else if you want to see this live, but if you want to see my commentary to it, my legal analysis of it, or my lack of legal analysis of it, my snark and everything, I will see you, let's say 4:30 p.m. Okay, folks, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, check if you think you are subscribed. You might have been unsubscribed involuntarily. But everybody, thank you so much, and I will see you later today. All right, see ya.
Sail the raven waves, brothers, axes high, shields strong. From distant lands we gather.